if I can get a quick little viewing here. Give it a little bit. Just got everything set up. Yes, I do got a Jalen Hurts jersey on. That is not a troll for Carson Wentz. We're gonna get into that in a little bit. But yeah. So a little bit of an introduction for my YouTube page. What is going on, YouTube community? I'm new to this sort of thing. Um, this is your guy, Lindy End Zone. Um, Lindy End Zone going to score. Touchdown. You already know what the score is. All about the birds. You can see. See if I can get a little introduction going. I got a lot of influences for really starting at YouTube. I thought I wanted to get my voice out there. Um, I'm a part of a good little following in a Discord community for another channel that I like to take a part of, Philly Sports Network. A lot of cool cats up in there. Lord Brunson, Philly 500, Philly Take with RB, Philly Fresh, Gate City Sports, Philly Mike, Battlebirds Podcast. All those guys are pretty big influences on, for me personally, wanting to start a YouTube channel, really get in touch with some more Eagles fans in the community, and just get your share my takes with y'all, and just get some football talk going for the Eagles, because we got after the trade deadline, we got a we got a bit of a mess going on, and I don't know where to start after the first half of the season. As we've seen about an hour and a half ago, the trade deadline passed, and the Eagles have decided not to make any moves and remain with the roster that they currently have built. As we know, Deshaun Jackson and Zach Ertz are still on the short-term IR at the moment. If I can think correctly off the top of my head, Deshaun has I think he's got a high ankle sprain, and I'm thinking Zach has sort of the same injury. We're expected to have Zach Ertz back week 11, and I'm not sure on Deshaun's part, but I guess for me at the moment, we're not necessarily missing much with Deshaun, especially with us getting Jalen Rager back for the Cowboys game. I was hoping that there was that he would stand out a little bit more, and that's not sure where to go with that. That was one thing that stood out to me, and I guess the lack of a use for Dallas Goedert. He comes back, and he just has one catch for 15 yards. Typical play call with the tight end. I think he ran up the seam, or he went over the middle, some sort of play like that, and he just he just had only one catch. So I mean, we got a lot of work moving forward on. But yeah, I think I think I got into a good background about what I wanted to do enough. But like I said, I'll be known as Lindy End Zone. Going in for the score, you already know what it is. Some good Eagles talk going on here. See, I only got one viewer in the moment. We're only about 4 minutes in. I'm not expecting much. Not expecting much for my first time at all. But whoever's watching at the moment, I do appreciate it. And I'm just on here to talk Eagles football. My main football team. If I can go more in depth on my fandom, I grew up watching a lot of basketball, and I was all about basketball as a kid. So my team specifically was the 76ers. I was huge on the Sixers with Allen Iverson, and sadly I left the Sixers when Iverson retired, and But I follow them. I follow the Sixers every now and then, but I do focus on my Dallas Mavericks. You know, Luke is the man right now. Young man, dude's only 21, making some fantastic strides in the WNBA or WNBA. Listen to me. First live stream jitters, I guess. No, it's all good. No, the kid's making massive strides in the NBA right now after the bubble, the playoffs, and everything. And I believe had Porzingis not have gone down early in that series against the Clippers, I think the Mavericks would have pulled off the upset in the first round there against the Clippers. They just the Clippers this past season they were just too inconsistent. But I'm getting off topic. I was just saying, I think my true Eagles fandom started in about I'd say around 2012, around the time where Nick Foles just came in, and I grew a liking pretty quick to Nick, and I thought that I thought that he had a lot of promise for this organization until Chip Kelly got his hands on the personnel decisions, and the rest is history. The rest is history, as a lot of us know. Yeah, so did not like the move of getting rid of Foles for Sam Bradford. Didn't like dumping Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, Jeremy Maclin. You know how we all know how that goes. So, but let's get back into present day here and just really figure out where the Eagles need to go. I mean, we're already halfway through the season. They decide to sit on their hands for the first time since I think 2016 in Carson's rookie season. They didn't make any moves at the trade deadline, and that's the same goes for now. You know, it, it was almost a two-way street to me. I mean, there was in one aspect you got a situation where you're trying to preserve the capital that you still possess, and not wanting to get rid of any assets as far as draft picks go, especially when your cap situation is the way it is, and for how bad we think we are. A team like the New Orleans Saints is a lot worse off. I think we're projected to be 63 to 64 million over the cap, and I think the Saints are in the fix the camera a little bit, so I'm not always looking down. But I think the Saints are in the range of I think they're in the 80s over the cap, so we could be a lot worse off right now, and it's I don't really I don't really know what to think. 8 weeks pass, and it's tough because the NFL we didn't expect the difficulties of COVID and everything with the off season and the challenges that they presented to the organization and whatnot. And so, but as Doug Peterson continues to say in his one-on-ones and press conferences that the team's just looking to build continuity and establish a chemistry. And in a sense, I can agree with that assessment here and there, but at the end of the day, that sort of excuse can only carry you so far until you have to realize that there's changes that do need to be made, eventually. And I think the worst skill position group as far as trying to cope with injury was the offensive line. You know, the trenches, and they they're a group that has to be on the same page constantly. Otherwise, there's just going to be miscommunications everywhere, and you know wrong assignments taken. In the pass rush. So it's like we've seen a couple of I mean, we've seen quite a few examples of those through the first 8 weeks, and we try to bring in, a veteran guy like Jamon Brown, and that went over, that went over so well that Jamon forgot about it. After the game was over against the Ravens, he's too busy taking pictures with Lamar Jackson. And it's like, you gotta, you gotta realize what's going on here, pal. You hung your, you hung your quarterback out to dry with a lack of protection, too busy focused on fixing his gloves and everything in the middle of the play. That was just ridiculous to me. But it's a shame, man. I mean, we look at injuries to the offensive line and how they've affected them, especially with the especially the rookies coming in and everything. And I feel bad. I feel bad for guys like Jack Driscoll, and he just gets drafted. He's trying to build a comfort zone with the change of pace in the NFL, and the lack of a proper off season, and just I think he's been having a nagging ankle injury as well. So it's kind of, I feel bad for guys like him, and especially when you got your All Pro veteran left, Jason Kelsey, who's just, I mean, the guy's an absolute tank. He's a bruiser. He's going in snap after snap, just making sure that he's there in control, in command of what's left of the offensive line. I mean, there was a point in the Dallas game where I was afraid that he was going to go out because it looked like he was holding his arm. And that's the that's the last thing we needed, was to lose Jason Kelsey on top of predictably, Jason Peters going in and out, 38 years old, and it's just, his body isn't there anymore to, it's not there anymore to cope with the amount of snaps that he's needed on this depleted offensive line. And it's just, I don't understand at times why we continue to bring these guys back. It's very it's just very confusing. We get into these desperate situations where year after year the depth of the skill positions continues to deplete from injury, and when we get attached to these players from past seasons, and we know that they can get the job done, but it's just a matter that their injury history isn't good. And you're relying on these kind of guys to contribute, like they're excuse me, like they're in their younger years. And it's just something that we have to avoid going forward. And I think that's one thing that Howie did do a decent job of in the draft, in addressing a skill position, especially that Carson Wentz needed. He needed receivers. He needed wide receivers that he can grow with. Into his 5-year extension, which that extension isn't looking very good right now as it comes to his play. But yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a second. But as far as injuries go, we look at the tight end position, how the injury to Zach Ertz did and did not impact this football team. And we can say all we want about the contract situation with him, and how he's been bothered by it and whatnot. And it's at the end of the day, he still has value to this football team. I'm not advocating that we pay him George Kittle and Travis Kelsey money, because he's just not that complete kind of tight end. Like his and this isn't me saying that Zach never had a blocking ability, which he did. He was able to block. I think in his earlier years he was a decent blocker. a little bit after his rookie season when Foles was there and everything, and he was developing it well. But it's kind of faded away from him because he's turned into just a constant security blanket year in and year out for Carson. All the years that the wide receiver position has been so inconsistent as far as injury and performance. And you know, you get 2018 or 2019 where Zach Ertz breaks the reception record for tight ends and whatnot, and it's just him and his position evolved um, to a point where his reliability on the blocking side of his position just isn't there. And you get a guy coming in, like Dallas Goedert, and he does what he needs to do. And I think that's I think it's just time to give Goddard the reins, and yeah, he's the future tight end for this football team. But I guess I'm just rambling at this point. But yeah, trying to I'm just trying to gain a little bit of traction in the beginning here for my channel, hoping to get some people to follow along. I'd love to chat with some of you guys in the YouTube community, and get in contact with these with the fellow YouTubers in the game, Bird brothers and the Bird sisters. Our voices got to be heard on this situation with what's going on and this year for the Eagles. It's definitely not what we expected. But at the same time, I think the realistic fan has a different opinion to the casual fan. And I think most of the realistic fans coming in were thinking that we were going to be a 9-7 team, which I think is a fair assessment considering the difficulty with the situation with COVID and the lack of an off season, and getting all those necessary reps in early, especially preseason games. It was tough on them, but yeah, I think 9-7's fair. Nobody expected us to tie with the Bengals. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. But that's one thing um, that's been a massive question mark is Carson Wentz. Like what happened to our franchise quarterback? It's very mind-boggling to me, and I think to only the Carson Wentz supporters, because I know there's a lot in the Eagles fan base that just wants him benched for Jalen Hurts, and like I said, this is not a troll to Carson Wentz. I just threw the Hurts jersey on. It was a nice gesture. My sister got it for me, so I just thought I'd put it on for my first live stream here to get into the world of YouTube and get my voice out there. You know, I'm just another regular guy. I think like I said, I just wanted to give the YouTube community and just get my voice mixed in there with the other Eagles content creators, my perspective on things, and hopefully if my channel gets some traction, I'd love to collaborate with them in the future. And but right now it's good to be slow going, obviously, and just hoping that at some point it would happen. I had my opportunities here and there, and there was a couple of times where I think Philly Mike in the Philly Talk podcast, he did a couple of live call-ins, and I was able to get on there. And I know Philly Sports Network did it last year, and I think Philly Fresh did a couple of those. So it's just people like them, and great content creators. Lord Brunson, another good content creator. Definitely subscribe to their channels. Um, but yeah, I guess not exactly sure where to go from here, other than talking about my quarterback, and I do find it hard to call him my quarterback at this point right now. It's very difficult to me. I'm one of the biggest Carson Wentz supporters, and even he lost after the Dallas game. Even he lost a little bit, if not all of my support, because just the way that he was managing that football game, the you know everything that he tried to do was just not good. It was not good. His decision making, all four of his turnovers were just ridiculous. I mean, in the beginning you had the two fumbles, and then threw an interception, and then a second interception. I think by the point of the second interception, that's when you had to know in the back of your mind that the conditions outside weren't getting any better. There was a wind, and that's where you have to know that maybe I can't throw the ball downfield, because I know the wind is going to affect the trajectory of who I'm targeting on this pass. And I think it was the pass to Jalen Rager in the end zone. It was a double coverage. The receivers were behind him, or they were in front of him. Excuse me. The defenders were in front of him, but I think had Carson adjusted to the wind a little bit, Jalen might have caught it. I do know that he had enough space to get both feet in bounds if he brought the ball down. But yeah, he was just fading to the right pylon, and it was just not an accurate throw. And um, I was at the, there was a lot of us at the point where we just had to. A lot of us were thinking to bench this guy, and around 2016, I think when Carson got drafted, that's when I started to really hone in and pay attention to this football team a lot more. As I had a bigger focus on basketball at the time, but I just thought one day, like, you know what, maybe I should start actually, you know, watching the football games, and getting used to the details, and the fundamentals of how it works, just like with basketball. And I've been addicted ever since, just from watching press conferences, and just connecting to the players. Like I was at a point where I only knew some players by the last names on their on their jerseys. Now I can pick out the entire, not the entire football team, but the majority of the football team, like the first string guys. I can name all of them off. I mean, we've all been there. I was a casual fan at one point, but yeah, no, like ever since 2016, ever since Carson Wentz got drafted, is when I really started paying a lot more attention to this football team. And I was there a little bit in 2015, but I couldn't stand Sam Bradford. He had his moments. I won't forget the game that they beat the Patriots. That was clearly. I think that game was clearly all defense. It wasn't offense. It was all defense. Malcolm Jenkins had almost a 100-yard pick six that game, and I think he had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. So Malcolm, closer to his prime years, or what should have been his prime years, had two defensive touchdowns that game. And I'm happy for him that he's back. That he's back home in New Orleans, and he's helping the Saints stay in contention in the NFC South. And then, they face the Buccaneers again on Sunday, and you know I was kind of bummed, but I wasn't at the same time, because I knew he was getting up there in age. And when when players like him get to that point, I mean, he was kind of an anomaly though at the same time because 2019 he played 100% of the defensive snaps. I don't think he missed a single snap, and he stayed healthy all year. So Malcolm Jenkins that year was an anomaly, and I understood why the Eagles didn't want to pay him because they just weren't sure of I guess of of his what is the word I'm looking for, like his level of play moving forward. I think they weren't sure of that. But yeah, I'm getting off topic again. I was just talking about Carson Wentz and everything, and yeah, it, I never thought I'd be to the point where I would want Carson Wentz benched. That was that was a very bad game. I didn't even care. I didn't even care that we won the game. I would have rather of us lost, honestly. Um, when you commit 4 turnovers, you would think just looking at the differential as far as turnovers go, you would think that if a team committed 4 turnovers, that they would have lost that game. And that's just a testament to how bad the Dallas Cowboys are this year. And granted, you know, part of that, part of the reasoning is for the Cowboys losing Dak Prescott, and I really hope he comes back healthy. and it's and I bet for Cowboys fans that's hard hearing coming from an Eagles fan. We got such a bitter rivalry, man. It's it's intense. I know, but I really hope Dak comes back healthy. I feel bad for the guy, and he was the definite leader of that locker room, and how much of an impact it's excuse me, how much of an impact it's left on that football team. Andy Dalton with the concussion, now he's on the COVID list, and it's it's crazy. Now the Cowboys are in a situation whether they have to decide whether they want to go with Ben DiNucci or Cooper Rush for the Steelers game. Did Cowboys fans ever think that they were going to be in this position? Honestly, I don't think I want to be them right now. I don't think I want to. I don't think I want to be a Cowboys fan right now. I'm not hating. I'm not hating. I'm just with the quarterback situation and what Mike Nolan really did to that defense. Mike McCarthy is looking so bad that he could lose his job after 1 year. And with the coach of that pedigree, it's difficult to say, but at the same time, it could be possible. I mean, this is no good comparison whatsoever. But we've seen with the Cleveland Browns, Freddie Kitchens losing his job after I don't even think it was after a year. He might have gotten fired in the middle of the season. I don't remember. But a guy like Freddie Kitchens, he loses his job, and Bob McAdoo, the previous coach for the New York Giants, the football Giants, he lost his job after 1 year. Granted, they don't have the same pedigree as Mike McCarthy, but it's the same principle at the same time. And yeah, they're just not in a good position right now. And I can only imagine how guys like CeeDee Lamb feel. The guy was drafted he was drafted 17th, and this year's draft, Dallas takes them. They're trying to start a new regime with the receiver like him getting a three-headed monster for Dak Prescott. You got Ezekiel Elliott in the back. And, it just came crumbling down. But we got despite that, we got bigger fish to fry. And like I said, it's how bad Carson Wentz is playing. I like I said, I never would have thought I'd come to the point where I would have wanted him benched in a game. And it's sad because I think there was 2 games this year where people were at the point of wanting him benched. I don't remember what the second game was, whether it was the Rams or wow, I don't think what game was it. It might have been the Rams game. Um, yeah, he was all over the place. I don't think it was Washington. I don't think it was against the Washington football team because it was the first game of the season. And it almost it was kind of like it was kind of like reversed from 2019 where um, you know we went up in the half 17 nothing in this year's matchup, and then last year's matchup we were down 17 nothing. So I don't think it was the Washington football team game where we wanted get emails here. I get rid of the emails, but no, I don't think it was the Washington football team game where we wanted to bench once. I think it was the Rams game because he was pretty bad. He was all over the place. I'd have to look back to the statistics and everything, but yeah, no, this was terrible. I mean, there's people that can say that they didn't want or that we shouldn't bench Carson and just so he can continue to build chemistry with the players on the field and guys that are just coming back into the lineup again after injury. Jalen Rager and Dallas Goddard and the offensive line is. We're hoping the offensive line gets healthy. Yeah, I'm concerned about Lane Johnson. I really hope that he takes this time in the bye to really get his ankle right because now it's affecting his knee. And he was trying to push to go out there for the Dallas game when I knew in my heart that he wasn't 100%, and that he was just going to push himself. And I think Doug Peterson alluded to that in a previous press conference. And, somebody asked him about Lane, and he says, well, you don't want to get into Lane's way when it comes to playing a football game or not. So I mean, I love I love the dedication that Lane has to want to go out there and protect his quarterback. Same thing for Brandon Brooks. I mean, he's working really hard to come back after that second Achilles injury, and massive props to that guy, man. I can't imagine that. And it's a year after. It's the year after Brandon comes out talking about how he's making himself vulnerable. He says that I think that he has a anxiety issue or depression issue or something. And, something like this happens to you 2 years in a row, but to continue to fight and bounce back from that self that self adversity that he suffers from. It's remarkable. And I'm just hoping that he can come back fully healthy and that he doesn't go through another Achilles injury like that. It's just and we see how it affects players in basketball and it alters careers. But Brandon seems to be that kind of guy that it's just not going to affect him. I hope he comes back soon. Same thing for Isaac Seumalo. Same thing for Jack Driscoll, and that leaves me with Andre Dillard too. I'm wondering what we're going to do with him next offseason. Jordan Mailata breaks out after 3 years. Jeff Stoutland did a hell of a job with him. He's becoming a very serviceable backup tackle. He showed his versatility a little bit in the Dallas game, going to the right side. Yeah, he did get beat by DeMarcus Lawrence once. Excuse me, but those are the growing pains that you just have to get used to, and at least we know we have a lineman of, you know, especially where Jordan's at right now. At least we know we have a lineman that can make that transition from left to right. We've seen Lane Johnson went down at some point last year, and I think it was in the Dallas game where we moved Dillard to right, and it ended up being a disaster. And post game, I think post game or a little bit after that next week, he came out. He came out and said it was like trying to write with your opposite hand. And, it didn't go very well for him. So it's a little alarming, especially when you got Jordan Mailata, who was a seventh rounder, and you invested a first round pick in Andre Dillard, and there's that limitation there. But then again, you're looking at a development period for Jordan that was 3 years as opposed to only 1 year of NFL development for Dillard. But at the same time, the argument could be that Andre Dillard, amongst the rest of the linemen in his draft class, was the most NFL ready. If you're a lineman going in the first round, obviously you're the most ready for the NFL. So there's two sides to the coin there, and we can decide what's what. But he's just one guy that I think about going into next offseason moving forward. What we even do with him, especially that our depth isn't the greatest in a la Jamon Brown, and just how Matt Pryor has been up and down, and Nate Herbig has been up and down, but I think he's turned the corner a little bit. Herbie's been looking pretty good. I can't necessarily complain about I can't complain about Nate. I know I was towards the beginning of the year, but for a player in his position, I mean, some of us got to realize Nate Herbig is only 22 years old. It's not like he's gonna, especially with a position coach with Jeff Stoutland. It's not like that he's going to play like this forever. I mean, you're talking about one of the best, if not the best, offensive line coach in football, and how he's able to develop these guys to come in and be these interchangeable pieces and to provide some sort of protection for Carson Wentz um, when the trenches just have so many holes, and you're trying to plug in the hole of who used to be there and who isn't there now. And we got a lot of work to do. I mean, I think Carson's been hit the most in the NFL. I think he's been sacked the most in the NFL. He's on pace to be sacked, I think, 60 plus times. And, if I recall, I remember at one point. Gotta get that for a quick second. Frosty Chino, definitely good mocha. But I think at one point, like, a good comparison that a lot of Eagles fans, as far as the quarterback position goes, go to is Deshaun Watson, and how I don't. I think it was last year. I think it was last year where Deshaun Watson was under fire a lot because his offensive line wasn't the greatest, and he was getting sacked quite a number of times. And I think at some points it was on ESPN or one of those sports media channels where they were talking about the amount of hits that Deshaun Watson was taking, and we can see sort of the same thing that's been happening to Carson Wentz this year. And when you're, like I said, when you're trying to plug these holes in on the offensive line, and you're just waiting for these guys to build a connection with each other, and how much of a responsibility that turns into for Jason Kelsey to try and keep that together when he's legitimately the only veteran left. I'm not going to count Jason Peters because predictably he went down again in the Cowboys game. But kudos to him. He fought through it. I'm sure he's good. I'm sure he's going to be fine. But yeah, I don't trust him going forward. But you know, 8 games in, you would hope that we'd be a little more connected as a team, and from the issue of COVID and just the limitations of the lack of an off season, just getting those reps. I'm sounding like Doug Peterson now, but it does make a difference. But at this point, it's not an excuse. Um, yeah, at this point, it's just not an excuse. You're just gonna have to. What am I saying here? At some point the tables have to turn, and you just gotta work through all those kings and just get it turned around. But I think, yeah, I'm just hoping in the end that Carson Wentz does turn it around. He needs to. Fifth year guy. He got his extension, and it's just he's making these rookie mistakes and everything, and it's very mind-boggling to me how he could be on that he can be on two different ends of the spectrum as far as performance goes. Oh, that's my volume. Okay. I'm new. Like I said, I'm new to YouTube, so I'm trying to figure all this out. I seen the microphone symbol in the studio here. Yeah, that's just the volume of my voice. I don't know how well I can be heard or not. So you know, but yeah, it's tough, man, seeing Carson on two different spectrums here with how he's playing. It's hard to see. It's very hard to see. It's hard to watch. Um, how he could be, how he could be good one year, and that only year being 2017, and then just, you know, and um, I don't want to take the unpopular opinion, but in a sense, Max Kellerman is, he's kind of right. Um, Not to an extreme, but we look post injury, 2018, he was kind of there. He rushed back. Um, his knee wasn't 100%, and I could tell. And it just escalated to issues with his back, and he wasn't excuse me, he wasn't the same quarterback to me. And then we go 2019. He had his early season struggles, and then he managed to turn the corner and then start looking like himself again a little bit. But all through that season, he still didn't look right to me. I thought he was 100% healthy, but um, I think Doug just tried molding him into a pocket passer. It didn't look right to me. So we get to 2020, and some of the issues are still coming to a head, and it's just where do we go from here? And Carson's just entering his contract years with the 5-year extension and everything, and it's like I said, I never thought I'd come to the point where I'd want Carson benched. I mean, it's just crazy to think of, but I'm just hoping that somebody on that coaching staff can figure this out, because, in my opinion, I don't think Press Taylor is doing a darn thing about it. And quite frankly, I don't know what he's done to keep his job for almost 3 years now. You know, I think John DeFilippo was one of the best things that could have happened to Carson from a coaching standpoint. Like, he kept, for and it's kind of hard because none of us look at this from the inside. Like, we don't know. So as fans, we can only build on we can only build on our opinions and just continue to speculate until we find out answers. But you know, but those kind of answers aren't usually revealed to the public. Obviously, that's stuff like that. Stuff like that's kept in house with the front office and management. And, Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. They're the guys. They're the guys responsible, and Doug Peterson for that matter. These guys are the ones responsible for building up that coaching staff. And to this day, I have no idea why Press Taylor still has a job. You know, I don't get it. I really don't. John DeFilippo was the best thing to happen to Carson from a coaching standpoint. It's like, everybody on that staff in 2017 understood the kind of quarterback that Carson was, and they got a mixture of the proper pieces for him. They had their power back, they had their power back in Garrett Blunt, they had their gadget guy in Corey Clement, they had two special teams backs to return punts and kicks, and Kenyon Barner and Wendell Smallwood. They had guys like him, or they had guys like them. Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz was still there, Brent Selleck, and in his last year, last hurrah for him. I'm happy he got a ring. And I think this is where I need to continue. I need to continue to maintain giving Howie credit for this year's draft class in a sense, and um, just seeing what he was trying to do, especially from an offensive standpoint, in getting Carson, the weapons that he needs. Was with these emails, but no, and then me going back to it, it dawned on me. I thought that um, I thought that there was I go back to the spectrum talk, and how this offense was built this year as opposed to last year, and the way the offense was ran last year as opposed to this year. Granted, all of it almost looks the same. I mean, it's looked the same for the last 3 years, and I think that's part of the irritation that the fan base has with Doug Peterson as a play caller. I know personally whether Doug thinks so or not, he needs an offensive coordinator, and it definitely shows, from a week to week basis, and you know, and it's not a knock on Doug Peterson, but you got a guy with the mentality that he used to be a backup quarterback in this league, and not to say that he doesn't have the capabilities to call in plays, but it's just I don't think he can do it. I don't think he can do it by himself. I mean, what was the thought of bringing all these different offensive minds in, like the Rich Scangarellos of the world, Marty Morningweg, and then we promote Press Taylor to passing game coordinator. Like, what are we, like what are we doing? There's too many Chiefs, and not enough Indians here. It's like, what are we, what are we doing? Um, and it's difficult to comprehend. I mean, my personal opinion is I would like Rich Scangarello to be the offensive coordinator. I didn't know I didn't know. I knew Rich wasn't the greatest for the Broncos while he was there. I think he ended up getting fired after last year, and I think they ran a similar West Coast style offense to what the Eagles do, and you know, and the sad part is that we don't hear from him much. We don't hear from Rich much. We don't hear from Marty much. And I think from a standpoint of the press conferences and that sort of thing, what we're able to watch after it goes live, especially on YouTube after after they end and everything. I think I've only seen Rich talk a handful of times, maybe twice. And the second time I listened to him, and it's funny because the way he talks about Carson is like he's known Carson as a quarterback not only longer but better than Doug knows him as a quarterback. I don't know. I don't know who else thinks that way. I know I do, just by hearing what he had to say, and he was very detailed. He was very detailed on who he thinks the kind of quarterback Carson is and what he likes. What he likes and what he doesn't like, and he didn't go into specifics, but he was detailed enough into um, really showing his knowledge on the quarterback situation for the Eagles and who his starter is. And I honestly think that Rich can organize a better game plan for Doug. And I think Doug should just call plays designed by Rich, um, instead of instead of Doug going through his own intuition, his own mind, and just get the just get the playbook out of his hands and whatever. I'll never understand it. And we can date this back to where Doug thought that Mike Groh and Carson Walsh were going to remain on the coaching staff, and that didn't happen. Granted, I think we're better off when Aaron Moorhead is the wide receivers coach than Carson Walsh, but you know, I think from that point on is when the warning signs were there, and then everything else would start to rear its ugly head with you know issues all over the place. But I've been rambling on for quite a while. It's already been like 52 minutes. It's crazy. I think I think my first video live stream could have went a little better. Um, yeah, at this point I'm just hoping to gain some traction, and I'm not going to be that I'm not really going to be that guy to ask for subscribers and whatnot, because this is something that I'm going to do for fun, and I would just like to get my voice out there a little bit in the YouTube community, find more find more bird brothers and sisters in the bird gang, fly Eagles fly, and yeah, hope to this has been Lindy uh, Lynn the end zone for the touchdown. You know the score. We're taking the lead, and yeah, I'm hoping to connect with some more of you guys in the future. I'll catch y'all later.